Okay. We are live. Welcome, everybody. We are here with Attorney Charles Krugel. Yeah. And Attorney Krugel is a labor and employment attorney. Can I ask you to move that bag there? See where we are there? There we go. Sorry. Oh, there we go. No problem. No problem. Now,
is this in the way too?
Come a little, yeah, it is a little bit. Come a little closer to me, and I want to crop us in a little bit. Let's come a little bit this way. There we go. Now I'll move you a little bit over here. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's good. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, and I'm glad you can join us. Listen, well, I'm glad you can join us. Again, hello, Joliet Josh. I haven't spoken with Josh. I did wave to him, said hello to him, but I go to work like Kris Kringle on Christmas Eve. Where's the Christmas morning? Whatever. So welcome to the program. Do my bump that my kid hates. My son Joe does the. He clips all of the pieces.
Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast. Another great episode is on the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts and join Stephen and Jim as they talk about everything under the sun and have a whole lot of fun.
All right.
News, sports, movies.
It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Pop culture, and puppies.
You love puppies.
It's the Watch Talk Radio podcast.
It is the Watch Talk Radio podcast. I'm coming to you from Arkansas. Actually not. I went to Arkansas. It was. I was a little bit disappointed that the weather was nice when I got back because it was so nice down there. You know, I get 90 degrees. You say, well, that's not nice. It's too hot. When you're on a lake, 90 degrees is good, right? Because and the water down there, the first day we went down there, the water was cold, as you would expect. It's a big lake, and it was cold. But 2 days later, the water was pretty warm, at least for the first 4 or 5 feet. Man, it's amazing what 90-degree weather will do to water. Heats it up pretty quickly. So we had a lot of fun, as I mentioned to you. We had a lot of fun. We're here with our guest today, Attorney Charles Krugel. Krugel. I told you I get it right, then I get it wrong. Krugel. Talking in the microphone.
Sorry.
Now, again, I know you've done a lot of media stuff. I always tell people get obscenely close to the microphone, that so Joliet doesn't have to work too hard, and put you in. So welcome back. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to have you. I've had attorneys, employment attorneys, but they're generally on the other side. So I'm happy to talk to an attorney who's more of a business side, right?
Exactly.
You represent businesses.
B2B, yeah.
We've had a couple of labor employment attorneys that work for the guy who gets hurt, or not gets hurt, but gets hurt because he gets fired or something like that, right? So for some various reasons, and so it's again I'd like to talk to you. We talked a little bit before the show, and I know you know that I have a kind of a union background. I was third generation, so labor law is interesting part for me, and so I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. So I welcome you to the show, and I know you're going to share a lot of great information with us.
I hope so.
Okay. CLE, although I still have a couple of classes left because I'm for people out there, attorneys, here in Illinois, they split half and half. Half have to do one on the even years, half have to do it the odd years. K is before M, so it's due June 1st, I think.
That's
it is.
right, yeah.
So I think I still have 4 or 5 classes left, hours. So I get included in as being a teacher, or they call me a faculty member.
Yeah.
So they include it in my package. So I get to. I also have I'm also licensed in Tennessee. In Tennessee, you have to do 15 hours every year.
Really?
Yeah. I've been an attorney not all that long, but long enough to remember when we didn't have CLE.
Yeah, I remember that too.
I was against it. I was against it.
I thought it was going to be a major hassle, but it hasn't been that bad.
It really hasn't, because it's more do it online. Although again, in Tennessee, I have to do half of the hours in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, I've only been licensed down there for 2 years, and that was both COVID years, and so you didn't. They waived the in person thing. Now, the way I look at it is, it gives me an excuse to go down to Tennessee at least once a year, take a class.
Yeah, Nashville, Memphis, those are cool places.
Yeah. Gatlinburg, I like Gatlinburg. I love Nashville, though. I really do. I have a office in Nashville. I don't recall the address, but right off Broadway. It's a virtual office, but it's right off of Broadway. Went down there, opened up an office. I got one client down there, and it was a bankruptcy case, and actually it was right before I got licensed in the federal courts down there, and so I couldn't take the case. I referred it out to somebody, but we're talking about getting the case on. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Hey, Joliet, let us begin the show, so I don't ruin all my conversation with it.
Welcome to the Trust Radio Network. Join your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy, every Saturday night at 7, right here on AM 560, as he engages in conversation with some of the most trusted professionals in all of Chicagoland. Enjoy interviews with local professionals dedicated to providing the very best products and services. Learn who they are, what they do, and most importantly, why they do it. Take a step inside the minds of some of Chicagoland's most successful business leaders and learn all there is to know every Saturday night at 7 on the Trust Radio Network. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Hey, welcome to the program. I am your host, like the guy just told you. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. I help people with tax problems. Remember now, this show is sponsored by the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve their IRS problems forever. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now, this is the Trust Radio Network, where we introduce you to trusted professionals, people you can trust when you're making important decisions. And as I say every week, what more important decision is more important? What decision is more important than who you're going to hire to represent you when you're having a legal issue? It's hard enough to even seek an attorney, right? And then to find the right guy, that's hard. So
Attorneys, it's hard to find attorneys.
yeah, it's true. So we want to introduce you to our guest today, and his name is Charles Krugel.
Yep. Hey.
He's
Well,
that's it. There it is. The crowd is backed up. So
yeah, I brought my own laugh track.
well, good. No offense, Joliet. He brought his own laugh track. Okay, so thanks so much for joining us,
Yeah,
Attorney
thanks for having
Krugel.
me.
I tell people what you do.
I'm a labor and employment lawyer. I represent businesses in all aspects of labor and employment law, HR, human resources law. So a third of my practice is counseling, proactive HR practices, policies, that type of stuff. Third is transactional law, contracts, agreements, enforcing, breaking, negotiating, and then the final third is litigation, both in state and federal courts, and the four regulatory agencies.
Do you do much litigation?
Yeah, it's a third of my practice, and actually right now I'm doing probably the most litigation I've ever done in my practice. So
Is that right?
4 lawsuits in the starting in this new year.
Is labor law, is this a federal? Do you go to federal court? You go to state court?
It depends. So on the employment side, it's largely federal on the employment side, although right now I have one case in state court. And then the regulatory stuff is usually almost all federal, like the National Labor Relations Board, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, although maybe a smaller aspect of that is state too.
Well, I know that I know federal law. Haven't done some. I don't do too much federal stuff, but haven't been in the district court or in a Cook County court. World of difference.
Oh God, yeah. That's we all pretty much unilaterally. Everybody in my profession, in my area, likes to go to federal court. I even had the guy who filed the state claim, the state case I'm dealing with right now, even sort of apologetically told me I probably should have filed this in federal court.
Well, federal court, just for people who don't know, if you've ever been to district court, tell people the difference between a district court and like a Cook County courtroom.
It's night and day. Cook County's the Wild West. Anything goes. You do things off the cuff. Very extemporaneous type stuff. The judges don't really know what their caseload is, or the cases that they're handling. Attorneys are, I don't know why, but attorneys are constantly late usually, and it's just a. I don't want to swear, but it's just a cluster F.
Yeah.
And in federal court, the judges are, everybody's very professional. The support staff are very professional. The online filing system, ECF Pacers, very elegant. It's a really good system. Whereas in the state system, it's still pretty clunky, and you can't get everything you need off of the state system.
It is. I always have to tell people, Cook County. If you're doing work in Cook County, and most attorneys around here are doing work in Cook County, right? They were the biggest court system in the country. Just recently started doing electronic filing. I mean, it really took them a long time to come around.
But all you can do is file. You can't really pull documents from the system or anything like that else. I mean, you can actually use in the federal court, the federal system, the ECF Pacer, you can actually do research off of that.
Yeah.
So it's just a complete different system. One time, like 10 years ago, I was in court, in state court, Cook County, and a judge made a very telling remark to me. She said, "Counselor," she's like, "I have no idea what my cases are. It's like, unless you tell me, now I really don't know what we're dealing with." And it was, I thought that was very open and transparent of her. I thought that was pretty cool. But it just told me, this is what we deal with here.
It is a big difference when you're standing before a county judge and you can call him judge. Hey, judge. Hey, what do you think, judge? In federal court, they don't kind of frown upon you calling him a judge. Hey, judge. You're supposed to say, "Yes, Your Honor." It's much more formal. Much more formal.
For the most part, I think it depends too on which judge you're in front of,
true.
and what kind of rapport you develop with the judges. The judges, I like the judges in federal court. They're generally pretty nice. They're generally very professional, succinct, concise, and they don't take a lot of BS.
They are the master of their domain, that's for sure. And I've been, as I said, I don't do a lot of there, but I have gone for like a foreclosure case, and in the middle of it, they had to stop it because they brought in some murderers in the middle of it. It's like, man, this guy sees everything, man, the whole gamut.
Yeah, they bring him in too from that side door.
Yeah,
it's always like where they're coming from. It's like some weird sort of the alter world or the Twilight Zone or something like that.
It is. I found that odd because again, in Cook County, here's a judge does bankruptcies or not bankruptcy because that's a federal foreclosure is what I'm thinking of. Chancery court, right? And then you get the guy who does the family law, and there's they kind of concentrate on one area of the law, and in federal court, and the courtroom is just majestic. It's several stories high, and everything's beautiful wood, just beautiful.
They have water. There's like they have all the amenities, bathrooms are nearby, and everything like that. So it's a nice system. It works well, and it's very efficient. So,
but again, the judges are in charge, and there was one. I don't want to name any names, but there was one judge that she never went to court. I mean, everything was done. Everything she did was before the court. She made a decision, and she'd send you the decision. Say, "We're not having a hearing." It's like she just never. Most stuff was done by paper. It just wasn't done in person.
That's what's going on during the pandemic.
No, that was way before the pandemic. But again, because they have the freedom to do that, to make the decisions, and just again, it's a different world. District court and federal court. So I'm always interested in talking to attorneys who practice in federal court to see the difference.
And as far as litigation goes, it's more fun because of that professionalism, and it's more streamlined. You could really, it is, I think, more fun.
Well, as you mentioned, I think they're much more rules oriented in federal court. It's like you got this timeline. That's the timeline. Then Cook County might be, I'll give you. I know I told you 30 days, but take another 30 days. We'll see how that works. But that's a court of equity. If I go to federal court, generally it's bankruptcy court, and that's a whole different world than even the district court.
I know nothing about bankruptcy.
Yeah, so that's kind of the hybrid between the two, because the courtrooms aren't as majestic. They're nicer than Cook County, but they're not as majestic. But it's still federal court, So
Cook County is just a weird system. It's just a strange system.
Well, I agree with that. And early in my career, I did a lot of traveling. I did the whole circuit, So I went to King County, went to Will County, went to McHenry County, Lake County. I did a lot of.
Lake County is pretty cool, actually. I've been up to Lake County on a couple cases, so that was actually good.
And King County, is it King? No, I'm thinking about out west, where our former Speaker of the House was, Denny Hastert. They built a courthouse out there, just beautiful, and I wonder how they got that money. Anyway, it was interesting. I don't do a lot of that anymore. And again, now with COVID, almost everything was online. So, are you guys back in court?
No, everything is still online, so it's all done video.
Do you like that?
Yes and no. I mean, going to court, like the actual going to court, getting up there to the room and getting past security and everything is a major hassle. So it's nice not having to deal with that. But it's different. I mean, I think it's better from an advocacy standpoint to be in front of the judge face to face, eye to eye, and the other attorney too.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So tell people how they can find you.
I'm on the internet. They can find me. They can just Google my name. Thousands of hits come up. So
Give us your telephone number.
312-804-3851. I have my own YouTube channel too. So
well, good. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment. Remember, this show is sponsored by the Law Office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Open Tax Advocates. So if you're having tax problems, man, there's been a big report today about information reporting returns. Don't get that kind of stuff on IRS stuff in major reports. But anyway, give us a call, 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com here on AM 560. The Answer. Something came out about information reporting. What happened was, and I do a daily podcast about tax law. Really news. My spiel is tax law is really at the core of all news.
Yeah.
Because how are they going to get the money? How are they going to spend the money? Right. So tax is really important. But it came out today that the IRS destroyed like 30 million information returns.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they just destroyed them and got rid of them. Well, we didn't have room for them. And it's going to cause a big problem. And it's really, one of the ways. You get a backlog, what do? Get rid of all the paper. Now we don't have a backlog. It's just amazing to me.
It sounds like Chicago City Council or something like that.
It does. It does. I always say it is the Chicagoization of the IRS. And that's like with passports now. They take your passport away from you if you're behind in your taxes.
Right.
And you don't have an agreement. They take your passport. So I have a couple clients out of the country who are trying to get back in the country. They don't have a passport.
Right.
Very difficult. Okay, so this next segment, I'm going to lead you down because I'm going to talk about how you got where you are, and you'll see why. Let's do it.
And now, back to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Real conversations with some of the most trusted professionals in Chicagoland. Once again, here's attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Hey, we have returned. This is the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Our guest this week is attorney Charles Krugel. Attorney Krugel. I have to have it in front of me so I can remember. We never met until today, so I appreciate you coming in. I got your name because you are the guy for employment law and labor law. So I wanted to get you in there. We've had attorneys who represent employees, but we haven't had anybody for the other side. So that's why I welcome you here to tell us about that. Because a lot of our listeners are business owners.
Yeah.
Right. So they're they have the employees. So they're looking at the other side. How does that affect me? So tell first, before we get into exactly how you can help them, because I do want to get into how the people you can help so they can recognize themselves. I think that's an important thing. But before we do that, tell me a little bit about yourself, about where you're from, where you went to school, things like that.
Sure. So I'm originally from Rogers Park in Chicago. Grew up in Chicago. Went to Bradley University, majored in psychology. That's in Peoria, Illinois. Have a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, which is HR management, HR consulting. That's from University North Carolina at Charlotte, and my law degree's from Ohio Northern University.
What brought you there?
To where?
To law school in Ohio.
They had a good labor faculty. They had a really good few professors in labor and employment.
Okay, so
it was a good deal.
So you kind of knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, actually, I never intended to be a lawyer originally. So
tell us what brought you that. What changed you?
Well, I was going to go into HR consulting, organizational behavior. That's why I got my master's degree. And then through the program, I found that I was too soft and touchy-feely, and I started to realize that maybe law is the way to go because that's edgier. You're dealing with disputes. It seemed more interesting. So then I decided, once I finished my master's program, to go to law school.
Well, that's a little unusual that an attorney would kind of know because most attorneys don't know what area of the law they're going to go into when they become attorneys. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I had no interest in being an attorney until I was in grad school. So
that's kind of amazing. That's it. So I always ask people, did you always think you were going to be a lawyer? And you didn't.
No.
So
my parents wanted me to be a lawyer, but
so I never thought I was going to be an attorney either. Even when I went to law school, I didn't think I was going to be an attorney. I wanted to really run my own business. And I do, but it's a law practice.
Cool.
So
same here.
So it's kind of amazing. So when you got out of law school, what was your first job out of law school?
Chicago Public Schools.
So you became a teacher, or you
No,
worked for
I
this?
worked as a labor and employment lawyer in labor relations for the public schools. So I was kind of like our main point person dealing with Chicago teachers union issues and the trades union issues and things like that.
What got you there? How did you get that? Did you know someone involved in Chicago Public Schools?
Yeah, a friend of mine. I law clerked for the state's attorney's office my second year of law school. And
here in Illinois?
Yeah,
okay.
Cook County, and on their labor and employment law unit. They have a labor and employment law unit that defends the county in disputes. So one of the attorneys, a couple of attorneys actually went to the public schools during my third year of law school, and then they recommended me my boss, and they interviewed me and she hired me.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
How long did you work there?
4 years.
Okay, so and what got you to start your own practice? I assume you started your own practice out of there, or did you go to another law firm?
No, actually, I worked for the YMCA of Chicago as their director of employee relations for a year, and then I went union side. I worked for a labor union in-house representing United Airlines pilots at the Airline Pilots Association for a year and a half.
Are they here in Chicago?
Yeah, Rosemont, near the airport, obviously.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So what got you to start your own practice?
Well, just personality-wise, I think it fits with me better. People are always telling me, like, you should be practicing on your own, or you should be out there in the private sector practicing. And I decided, I was doing a lot of consulting. This was in 2000, 2001, when the tech industry first, was booming. And I was doing a lot of advising of people and friends of mine on their businesses. And basically, I was doing this like free of charge because I was working for the labor union. And then I decided, well, maybe I should get out of here and just start charging people.
Okay, so this is why I'm asking you. I have two sons, and both of my sons are now in law school.
Yeah.
And I want to ask the lawyers who are here with me, what kind of advice would you have for people in law school or people that are just coming out of law school? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. In short, when people zig, you zag. Don't follow conventional wisdom. There's a lot of different avenues to go into and try to find your own. Personality is a big thing. So, try to find something that suits your personality that you feel comfortable with. And, and I think that, networking is important, obviously. It's the basic stuff like that. I meet a lot of attorneys who just aren't good at attorneys. They're smart people, And, a short story. At one of my clients, I was dealing with a guy who graduated from University of Chicago Law School in 2005. And I could not figure out, he was actually working for my client as a grocery store and working as a grocery clerk. And he was like a union guy. And I don't know if he was a union salt, kind of like a union plant to, foment unionization of the business. But I just thought it was kind of weird. And I realized as I got to know this person better, why he was why he wasn't really practicing law, or why he wasn't successfully practicing law. So,
because one thing that really got me when I went to law school was how smart people were, right? Because I went to Loyola, and I did fairly well when I applied myself. But anyway, that's a different story. But I did fairly well, but when I went to law school, I was surprised at how many smart people there were. I mean, everybody's smart.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, wow. So you really have to step up your game.
Yeah.
Where I can get an A in undergrad, you can kind of get an A. You got to apply yourself to get an A. But man, when you went to law school to compete with everybody, to me it was a much different atmosphere, that the people were just really smart, and I thought that was interesting. But as you point out, I think that's interesting about being able. It's not only being smart; you have to have the personality too.
You have to be able to relate to people, especially from my perspective, where I'm a business attorney. So my clients, first of all, I always have people asking me like, how do I select an attorney? And I always say, select somebody you like. Because if you don't like them, you're not going to have a good relationship with them, and you'll probably end up firing them as your attorney. And that doesn't matter if you're a consumer or a business owner. Well,
I want to talk a little bit about that, because I agree with you 100%. Because if you don't like your attorney, you got to like your attorney.
Yeah.
You have to have a relationship with them, right? Because you're asking them for advice, and you're going to have then if you don't like the guy, you won't take the advice that he's trying to give you.
If they're not they won't be credible for you. And once the credibility is destroyed, that's it. I mean, you're out.
I agree with that 100%. Okay, so I guess, as I mentioned, I have two sons that both are finishing law school. Well, one's just kind of started, so the other one's finishing. But I always, we talk about starting out on your own. Tell us a little bit about what got you to start your own practice and what that was like when you started your own practice.
Well, it was tough. Business development has become like a hobby of mine almost, because business development is a lot different than the practice of law. So you're selling yourself. I never really considered myself a salesperson, but now I'm literally selling myself because I'm a sole practitioner. So it was an adjustment. Also, but when I went out on my own, 2001, that's really when tech started coming into its peak, and tech really made a huge difference for me. There's stuff, research, for example, things that used to take me 3 to 6 hours of research now take 1 to 2 hours, because you hop on Lexis or Westlaw.
Are you a tech guy then, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am a tech guy to non-tech people. So if you're a network administrator, you know more about it than I do. But I consider myself a tech guy too. So and it kind of gives me a leg up, because
I believe so.
Because most lawyers, they're just not very tech involved. They're not very much. Is that what you found?
Yeah, because a lot of lawyers say to me that I'm way ahead of the curve in terms of technology. So, like, for example, like website design, like I know a lot of attorneys spend, tens of thousands of dollars on a website. Well, I spent $1,000 because I got a guy from Bucharest, Romania, and we're actually friends now. He designed my second website, and he's designed my second, third, fourth, and fifth websites.
So we're here talking with Attorney Charles Krugel. Attorney Krugel, tell us where we can find you.
312-804-3851, charlesakrugel.com.
So if you're running a company and you're having employment issues or labor issues, Attorney Krugel's the guy to call. Call him. And if you're fighting the IRS, well, then call Open Tax Advocates. Call them at 312-664-6649. Go on the web, chicagotaxteam.com. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Attorney Krugel's going to join us on the other side, and we're going to talk about the Constitution, because you guys all know how much I love the Constitution, and we want you to love the Constitution, and Attorney Krugel loves the Constitution, so it's a love fest. Join us on the Constitution segment here on AM 560, The Answer.
Get into some tax stuff. involving ERISA and Multi-Employer Pension Plan Assessment Act.
Now, it's funny that you talk about because my son is taking human resource stuff in law school. It's like, and he said, "This is the greatest class I ever had." Like, nobody thinks that, okay, but he does. But as you were saying, everybody, that's one thing about being an attorney. There's so many different avenues, and as I talk to more and more attorneys, one of the best advice is, do what you like, right? And there's so many areas in the law that now most of the guys that I've talked to, as I said, they're fairly from that list. They're doing what they want to do. So many attorneys don't do what they want to do, right? They're doing what they kind of do. It's like how many attorneys I hate family law, but that's what I practice, right? Although I mentioned to you my friend Karen Conti. She's a family lawyer, and she didn't start there, so that's what she likes to do. Again, as another friend of mine always says, that's why Baskin-Robbins has 31 flavors, right? Because there's a flavor for everybody, and do what you like.
A number of my clients are law firms.
Is that right?
Yeah, I represent a number of law firms, including some family law firms I've represented, and intellectual property patent type stuff.
Okay, so a lot of my clients are attorneys, because I help small business people, and that's really who has tax problems, right? Because if you're a W-2 employee, you probably don't have a lot of tax problems. Because the IRS is taking your money every week, every time you get paid, right? So it's small business people, attorneys. Most people who hire me, they're very good at what they do. They just have this area where they don't bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is for losers. That's what they're thinking, right? And of course, it's like running any business. There's certain aspects of every business that you don't like. And as an attorney, as you pointed out, they don't teach you this kind of stuff. You just kind of have to do it. But as I tell all my clients, you can learn it.
Law firm administration sucks.
It does, yeah.
It's a grind.
But again, it's like bookkeeping. I hate bookkeeping, but you can learn it.
Yeah.
Or hire someone to do it. And that's because it's got to be done.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it. So let's do we are going to do the Constitution segment.
You're listening to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Step inside the minds of some of Chicago's most successful business leaders. Here's your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
From 1788 until the end of time, we the people make a resolution to defend the Constitution.
We're not going to sit here and listen to you bad-mouth the United States of America.
So let liberty, justice, and freedom ring. It's the Constitution segment.
Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do.
Well, welcome to the program, Ronnie. Thanks for that advice, and I think we're trying to keep it. Tell the government what they should do. I think too often they tell us what to do. But I want to welcome our guest is Attorney Charles Krugel. Attorney Krugel helps people with labor issues, actually businesses.
Yeah.
But businesses are people too. Someone's running the business.
Yeah.
But I asked you. I always ask our guests to talk about a Constitution provision, amendment, case, something like that issue. And so, tell me what you wanted to talk about the Constitution today.
Well, there's usually two issues that come up in employment: the First Amendment, free speech, and then due process, 14th Amendment. So the due process part is basically notification ahead of time of charges and right to representation. That usually comes up in union matters or civil service type stuff, or contractual matters where a contract provides for that. And that's pretty basic. It's the idea that you can have somebody, a union rep or somebody representing you and speaking for you or advocating on your behalf at a disciplinary hearing, meeting, whatever. And then the First Amendment thing is obviously free speech and basically the right to speak your mind at work, which basically in the private sector, there is no First Amendment free speech right. So that comes up a lot. And it's kind of, it always, I think, kind of turns heads, especially for employees, like really contentious employees when they realize that they don't have a First Amendment right to free speech in their workplace.
Well, that's been a big issue recently about workplace issues and people allowed to talk or not talk on the job. Yeah. We talk about the pandemic, right? That brought a lot of these issues to forefront. Whether I have a right, whether my employer can tell me that I should get vaccinated.
Vaccinated, testing, space around other people, masks. Yeah, that comes up all the time.
Okay, so have you had any of those cases?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those.
So those aren't that complicated, actually, because basically the employer has fiat to run their workplace, as long as it's reasonable, as long as they run in a reasonable manner, and as long as they're relying on CDC guidance. Even the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and various other or equivalent state agencies have come out on the side of employers saying the employer has a right to enforce, reasonable rules in the workplace regarding testing, masking, vaccination, things like that. And then the two, exceptions for vaccinations are religious exemption or medical exemption. So I get a lot of questions about religious exemption because, the guy's a Zoroastrian or something, some really sort of out there religion or something or philosophy. And, they're saying that they can't, their advisors say they shouldn't take the vaccine. And, what can I do as an employer? And generally speaking, it's really a matter of, as an employer, you can, discipline them or fire them if they refuse to get vaccinated. But a lot of times it's not so much what the law is, it's like how you execute and what you say when you say it, how you say it, things like that.
Now, you mentioned that you do a lot of preemptive stuff in that, and that you help companies maybe come up with some policies and procedures, right?
Proactive HR,
And that's really... Sometimes the policies and procedures, they become kind of a quasi-contract, don't they?
Exactly, yeah.
And so because you're saying here, this is what we're going to agree to, and then you can hold them to that agreement.
Exactly, and then sometimes too, the courts will or agencies will find, regulatory agencies will find that the employer has a contractual obligation to do, X or Y because this is what their handbook says. So, for example, sometimes in Family Medical Leave Act issues, where the Family Medical Leave Act applies to 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius of the business, and I see some employers who actually qualify themselves or make them have a policy that grants FMLA when they don't actually have to grant it. And so sometimes you could be bound then to that policy. Depending on how you've enforced it, how you've implemented it, things like, and how it's written.
Well, that's we live in a world of rules,
yes.
Right? And a lot of times, what we discover is the rules are there whether you think they're there or not.
Yes.
And so you should be proactive in trying to at least make the rules clear as you can. Agreed?
Yeah, I think you have to have as a business owner or operator, I always tell people you have to have a foundational understanding of HR management. That doesn't mean you have to understand every intricacy, all the ins and outs, but you have to have at least some understanding of what HR management is. And I think effective leadership too, because I always equate this to effective leadership, that you're the business owner or operator, you have to be a leader. So are you going to be an effective leader or ineffective leader? And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out, what's ineffective or what's effective.
Well, that's really good. Tell people where they can find you.
312-804-3851 and charlesakrugel.com.
So if you have a business and you want to be proactive, Attorney Krugel can help you do that.
Or litigate, being more reactive.
Someone's coming after you, right? That's right. So
it always pays more to be on the reactive side than it does on the proactive side, at least for me.
Agreed. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to come back on the other side. We're here at, remember now, Open Tax Advocates is there to help you, 312-664-6649. We're going to take a break. Join us on the other side on AM 560. The Answer. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about marketing, but also common questions you get. I want to try to highlight people that you have helped, so people can see, hey, that might be me, right? So that's what I like to do. So maybe we'll play it by ear.
I'll tell you a story about a business that was up here, actually.
Oh, in Elk Grove?
No, Palatine, a skating rink, where I helped, because I was the third attorney brought in.
That's always a red flag, isn't
it?
Yeah,
it's very interesting. I get that a lot, where I'm like, cramp. Where I get I'm like the third attorney brought in or something like that. It's very interesting when it happens.
So there's a case right now that I have that was another attorney had, and they came to me afterwards, and it's always a red flag. I don't like to talk to the other attorney and say, hey, why are they leaving? Because I think it would bias me to say, because I'm probably going to agree with the guy.
In that case, I got a wild story for you, too, about it being in court where the first attorney was there and watching me going up. But yeah, it's a bizarre story. Very, very unusual story in federal court. And yeah.
That is unusual.
Yeah, it's
like forget about it. Okay, let's do this. Let's do it.
Now, back to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. Hear from Chicago's business leaders. Learn who they are, what they do, and why they do it. Once again, here's attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Welcome back to the program. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. This is the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Here with our technical producer, Joliet Josh. Come on, there he goes. I was waiting for you, Joliet. We're joined here today by our guest is attorney Charles Krugel. Attorney Krugel helps businesses with labor and employment issues. So I always like to talk to attorneys and tell us some people that you've helped, because my goal is that there's business owners out there and they say, hey, that's me. This is the guy I gotta call, because again, as I always talk about, it's hard to find the right attorney. Yeah. You can start Googling all you want, but that's not gonna. You need really a referral or somebody that, and maybe you don't know anybody that had the same issue and they don't know where to go. So that's why I like to have you. So tell us a little bit about the people you've helped and businesses that you've helped.
Sure. So a lot of them are family-owned businesses. Some of them are publicly held. Some of them are international. I've had clients out of China, Germany, Great Britain. They're multi-state businesses too. One of my newest clients is based out of California. So these are basically small to medium-sized businesses. Some of them are dealing with union issues, union organizing. Actually, and they hire me basically to run the campaign or defeat the campaign. I've actually had clients hire me to defeat campaigns, and I've been successful in that. Some of them are also actually labor unions will actually hire me to bust up other labor unions.
Is that right?
It's a cannibalistic industry.
It is.
So, and then
I know everybody thinks the labor that they're all together, but they're not all together.
No, they aren't.
So, and I have stories about that. But as I mentioned, I was a long-term third generation of a union member, and so I know that they go after each other very much.
I was a labor attorney for a labor union, and we had our own labor union and the union itself.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was
I see
weird.
that they're trying to unionize Congress now.
Oh yeah, I saw that. But Congress is, well, at least the Democrats are in favor of it.
Well, I think they're not in favor because they're running things. They don't want. They'd rather not. But we'll see how that works out. But that's interesting. Well, again, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No problem.
Tell us about it.
So, I mean, I've had clients who I've been brought in like as the third attorney. I mentioned during break, like I one client, I was the third attorney brought in. The first attorneys just weren't working out, and the second attorney was actually the one who brought me in because he was kind of in over his head. He was a general business attorney, and he was having a lot of problems with opposing counsel. Opposing counsel was being very obnoxious. The second attorney had actually been sanctioned in court. It was a federal case in federal court. So I was dealing with I was brought in, the third attorney. My first time in court, I was having a lot of problems too with the opposing counsel. And then second time in court, me and opposing counsel have been really going at it tooth and nail. He was, chiding me about discovery issues and things like that. And I was I'm a pretty transparent person. I'm pretty honest. And I was telling him what the issues were and all that, and he just wasn't buying it. So he was being really obnoxious and rude to me. So finally we get into court in front of the judge, and I say to the judge, Your Honor, this is the rudest and most obnoxious attorney I've ever dealt with. And the judge, the magistrate, was just dumbfounded. And he looks at us and he tells us then to go out for 20 minutes and then come back. Oddly enough, in the gallery waiting to have his case called was the first attorney on the case.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was there. And after that, I was like, I didn't, I heard the judge call his name. I'm like, holy smokes, that's the guy who's the first attorney. I'm taking over for this guy. And I just called opposing counsel like rude and obnoxious. So it turns out, though, I got it cleaned up. A month later, the judge said to us in open court, he's like, Mr. Krugel, I'm glad that you're on this case. And then 6 months later, when we had to get the settlement approved by the presiding judge, actually saved the other attorney's ass in court. He actually thanked me on the way out for saving him, and we've become friendly now.
That's a great story, and I have a similar story in that I got a guy that we almost came to blows because he was going, and turned out I've referred cases to him. He's a great guy, and but I guess when you're advocates, sometimes that could get out of hand.
Years ago, one of the first times I was ever in front of a judge, and it was the same presiding judge who handled this wage and hour case. I was the third attorney brought in. We caught the opposing counsel lying to the judge, and I was standing there, and it was this is like way before the pandemic, so it was a full gallery of all attorneys, and they're looking, and I'm just looking, my mouth is wide open. I'm like, holy smokes, how could this guy say this stuff? And the judge looks at me, he's like, is this true? I'm like, no, Your Honor. And it was not even a dispositive issue. It was just an issue, a motion to compel discovery. And the judge said to them, like, you pull this on me again, I'm going to sanction you. And we get outside the courtroom, and the guy's trash talking me for like 5-10 minutes. He's trash talking me outside the judge's courtroom. And finally, I lost my temper, and I get up to the guy. I'm like, you don't. And I was pointing. He's like, you don't lie to a federal judge and expect me to cover for you and do all that. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to jeopardize my own license just to cover for you, blah, blah. And then the guy says to me, he's like, hey, quit pointing me. He's like, if you don't stop pointing me, I'm going to kick your ass, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fine, if you want to do with that. I mean, we're in federal court, on Dearborn, so there's an alley, Plymouth Court behind. I said, fine, then let's just go out to Plymouth Court and we'll resolve it there one-on-one. He's like, what? He's like, let's just do it right here, right now. I'm like, no, man. I'm like, I don't want any witnesses. I said to the guy, I'm like, no witnesses. Let's just go there right now. And he backed off, and he called me an hour and a half later, apologized.
Well, that's common. I mean, because attorneys get heated, because they're advocates and they get heated. But you're not supposed to come to blows. And I have stories about that too. But thanks so much for sharing that with us. If someone's having an issue, how do they find you?
312-804-3851.
So this is Attorney Charles Krugel. Attorney Krugel helps businesses with employment and labor issues. Call him if you're having an issue. And remember, if you're fighting the IRS, call Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems forever. Call them at 312-664-6649. Go on the web, chicagotaxteam.com. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Attorney Krugel is going to join us on the other side. We're going to wrap the show up here on AM 560, The Answer.
So fast, yeah.
Only when they're interesting. They don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
They don't know. One of my favorites, I was on a show once. and I was with David Hochberg, and he had a guest on, and the guy hadn't talked too much throughout the show, so David asked him, "Hey, we want to get you on. What question should I ask you so we can get you to talk about what?" He says, "Ask me what kind of people I can help. Who can I help?" So we get back. "Hey, welcome back. Help. How you doing? What kind of people can you help?" And he said, "Anyone."
That's hilarious.
And then he stepped back. He's like, what do you mean by that? It's like, we got 4 minutes now.
It's like, what kind of law do you practice? All types. Yeah.
Who can you help? Anyone. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't really help. You need to talk.
Yeah.
This is radio, so you got to talk. Okay, we're gonna. It's a very short segment, 4 minutes. So is there something that you want to talk about?
I mean, there's a ton of things I could talk about.
What would you like to talk about?
If you want, since we're talking about like what I do for people, there's a case I handled a few years ago involving a labor union, a very powerful labor union, Operating Engineers Local 150.
I saw that on your website.
Yeah, so that was a wild one.
I knew a lot of 150 guys because as a machinery mover, right, we worked with them and the crane operators and stuff like that. Okay, we'll talk about that. Here, let's do it, Joliet.
That was a fun one. Wild.
And now, back to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Real conversations with some of the most trusted professionals in Chicagoland. Once again, here's attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Welcome back to the program. This is the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Our guest today will be attorney Charles Krugel. Attorney Krugel helps businesses with labor employment issues. So tell us a little bit. We only got a couple of minutes, but I wanted to, you know that I have some background of labor unions, but you've got some background with labor unions. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, one of the more interesting ones, I was discussing was I had 3 cases going against Operating Engineers Local 150. And this was about 5 years ago. And this was a real wild one because the genesis of it was the business owner hired their boyfriend to work for them, and while they hired they were living together, and while the boyfriend was living with the owner, was undermining the business, and then also started fooling around with a industrial cleaning person who came in the offices after work, and then married the cleaner while he was living with the boss, my client, and so. They got into a dispute about something, and the guy quit. And I guess he realized, he made a mistake by quitting and wanted then to file a grievance to get his job back and say he didn't quit. So it ended up mushrooming where we had 3 cases going. One was at the Illinois Department of Employment Security, where I appealed it all the way up to the Board of Review. I never taken a case up to the Board of Review. One was at the National Labor Relations Board, and one went to labor arbitration. So I really only expected to win 2 of them because I figured we were going to lose the unemployment comp, because the unemployment comp is there for employees. And we actually won that one. I actually reversed the administrative law judge's decision, and I think I got the ALJ actually fired too. Because,
is that right?
Yeah, the ALJ was messed up.
Tell people what that is.
Administrative law judge. They're a quasi-judge. They're sort of work within an agency usually, and basically they're there to try the case or hear the case and decide upon it to avoid going to court.
Well, you've got a vast array now. You go into administrative hearings, federal court, state court. Yeah. So there's a lot of different avenues in employment law, labor law, a lot of federal regulations, a lot of state regulations to be involved in.
It's labyrinthian. I always tell people, the best way to describe our labor and employment law system is as very labyrinthian.
Okay, because like a labyrinth, it's very complicated.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah, you it's like a maze. You hit one wall, and then you go to another. Maybe there's like 3 alternatives.
And that's why businesses that are dealing with employees, and almost all of us do, right? They should probably contact you beforehand, right? They should be proactive.
Well, we're an increasingly bureaucratized society, and I deal a lot with bureaucracy, even in the court system itself. It's very bureaucratized.
Yes.
So it's basically I've become in many respects a specialist in bureaucracies and how to deal with bureaucracies.
Well, I think that's what lawyers do, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. I learned a lot. Always looking for one or two nuggets in every show, and you've provided that, so I appreciate that. That's why I like the show so much. It's because I learned so much. So thanks so much for sharing with us. So this is attorney Charles Krugel. He helps people and businesses with employment and labor issues. If you're having an employment or labor issue and you think you need an attorney, you should call Attorney Krugel at, tell us your number.
312-804-3851.
So join us here. Now, this is the Trust Radio Network. We're here every Saturday at 7 o'clock. Join us next week here on AM 560, The Answer.
Thank you for tuning in to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560, The Answer. Be sure to join attorney Stephen A. Leahy again next Saturday night at 7 as he engages in conversations with some of the most trusted professionals in all of Chicagoland. Enjoy interviews with local professionals dedicated to providing the very best products and services. Learn who they are, what they do, and most importantly, why they do it. Take a step inside the minds of some of Chicagoland's most successful business leaders and learn all there is to know on the Trust Radio Network with your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy. See you right back here next Saturday night at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
Yeah, my kid Joe hates that at the end. He says, you should use that for your own show, Dad. I like it. I don't know why. But thanks so much for joining us, Attorney Krugel. I learned a lot, and I appreciate you coming on. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Okay, because next time I ask you to come on, you'll say yes.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, good. I always because the second time people come on, and after that, that's when we really get to learn more about what you do. And the people that you help, and that's really what we're trying to do is highlight you and your practice to those who need you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk more about marketing and things like that, because again, I find that very I'm very interested in that.
This is my hobby now.
Well, I was telling Fretzen that last week. That's kind of, it's not really a hobby because there's so much, as I say, there's so much writing on it. It's got to be more than a hobby.
Yeah.
But I'm not a marketing guy.
But it's not the practice of law. It's not the pure practice of law. So it's something different.
It is. I agree with that. But it's as we were talking about earlier about when you're running your own business, and it's a law firm. There's so much that it's like every other business. Not only do you have to, I don't know if you have any employees, no. But if you have employees, you got those issues. It's everything running any kind of business, and you run into we talk about taxes and bookkeeping and all of that that everybody has to do. Marketing is one of them. And
one of the most valuable skills I taught myself was how to code. Learning how to,
what kind of code did you do?
HTML.
Okay, I did some HTML and I do my own. Years ago, before I became an attorney, I did some Perl. I did Fortran. Yeah. I did Basic. So I did a lot of coding.
You were really ahead. I mean, if you're doing Basic and Fortran.
Yeah, well, that was before there was the internet. So, so that's what you had. You learned the computers. And again, I like to consider myself a tech guy to non-tech people. For instance, I did my own websites too. So, I put in my own network at my office.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm very proud of it. Also, it's actually really good. I mean, it's I use a lot of great.
You're way ahead of the curve.
It's a curse and a blessing, right? Because maybe when I should probably get help, I don't, because I try to, because I think I could do it, and in the end, I can do it. It's just a matter of how much time you're going to put into it.
Yeah. How much hassle do you want? Yeah.
And so again, the same thing with marketing. You could do it yourself. How much you want to do it, and I have hired others, and I've always been disappointed.
Years ago, I had a PR person, a lady who was good. I mean, she was good. There wasn't anything wrong with her or anything. But after a year and a half, she told me, she's like, I can't do anything for you that you can't do for yourself. She's like, you're like so good at this that I can't. There's nothing I could do for you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
At least they're honest about it. I remember I sat down with somebody about marketing, and we're going to do some websites for me. And I'm like, well, how are we going to capture their email address? Well, we're not going to capture it. I'm like, what the hell why am I marketing if I'm not going to capture email address? How are we going to follow up with them? How are we going to?
What was the rationale for not even?
I don't know. We talked.
That's fundamentally wrong.
I agree. I said I'm not. I'm not a digital marketer, but I know that that's what I want to do.
It's data. Everybody wants data.
Yeah. So I do some. What it's called, the click funnels. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly,
So I'm a. Do you have a marketing guy that you kind of follow that you would say that you read? Do you read marketing books and things like that?
No, I don't really read books. I read some articles. I pick up things here and there,
Mm-hmm.
presentations, seminars, things like that.
The guy that I generally follow his name is Dan Kennedy. He's like the guru of direct marketing, and I've read most of his books. Actually, going to go meet him next in September, but he's like the guru of direct marketing. And then this ClickFunnels is run by a guy named Russell Brunson, and it's like anybody I've ever hired. I used to be involved in this group, IRS lawyers. That's kind of got me into IRS niche. And there was a group of us from around the country, and the guy who ran it turns out he was a protege of Dan Kennedy. And then I go to another guy; he's a protege of Dan Kennedy. Yeah. His name was Ben Glass. Have you ever heard of Ben Glass? He does a lot of digital marketing for attorneys. And so I'm like, why would I hire them? Might as well just hire Dan Kennedy.
Actually, I have read books, Fretson's books.
Yeah. Okay. So I, as I mentioned to you, I met him last week. He's got 4 books. I said, well, I have to follow up. He says, I'll get you a copy. So we're going to have some coffee, and I'm going to get his books.
Cool.
And I thought he was a knowledgeable guy. Another guy
he knows what he's doing.
I got some great nuggets, golden nuggets from.
There's a lot of excellent attorneys I know who use them.
Yeah. Well, again, you got, as we were saying, you could be a great attorney, but if nobody hires you, what good is it? Mm-hmm. And or you could be not a great attorney and get a lot of business. And there's a lot of guys out there who aren't that good. I don't know what that means. Good.
I see some attorneys, like I read their documents, and you could tell. I mean, I've read some filings and things like that.
I agree with that. But I think good means that they're very client focused, and that they work well with their clients. Because in the end, that's the people you're helping. Now, being client focused, that means you also have to work with the other side very well, because you're representing them with them, and there is a dispute, and that's what you're trying to overcome.
One of my newest cases I'm dealing on the other side is a friend of mine. So
how do you find that when you work with somebody that's
fun? I find it fun, actually. So because we joke about, we actually do presentations together. We're like panelists on presentations and stuff like that, and we help each other out. So I mean, we're friends, and yeah, it's fun. I mean, I always have a good time. One lawsuit I was dealing with on behalf of a client, the guy's now a judge, and he sued my client actually for fees, and it was a state court, and so I beat him on an oral argument on summary judgment, and we had to settle, and now we're friends. So it's kind of it's not personal. I take what I do personally, but I don't get personal with the other side.
Isn't that something you have to learn? Because I think when I was a newer attorney, I took things personally, and I really took the case on, But then you have to. It's not my case, right?
Well, taking the case personally is not the same as like venting on the other side. So that's where like the guy who was yelling at me, trash talking me because I caught him lying in front of a judge. I mean, that's when you get personal, and that shouldn't happen. No,
when I talk about personal, is that you take your client's case very personally, and that if you don't prevail, you take I really let them down. But again, the facts are what they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes no matter what you do, you're going to lose because the facts just aren't there. It's just
my
it's just the way it is.
My trial ad teacher gave me a great lesson on this, or us a great lesson. Like, when the facts are on your side, pound on the facts.
Yep.
When the law's on your side, pound on the law. When neither's on your side, pound on the table.
I've heard that before. That's very good. I like that. And so again, I want to thank you so much. I want to take a picture with you. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, and so let me put my break up here, and then we'll take a picture. Thank you. Couple minutes, Joliet.
These things get kind of hot.
Yeah, they do. So, get your stuff, take it with you, so you can. I'll take a picture. I got this. I got another show to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How many of these do you do?
Just two.
Oh.
I got this one. Every Friday I do this. I do this show, and then I do my IRS radio hour. I do. Oftentimes I'll do a Saturday show with David, as I mentioned at WGN.
Yeah.
I'm doing WGN shows.
Yeah, actually, I have.
I've been on that show many times. It's a cool story. I've heard not Anthony, but he's got another show called Money Matters. Okay. God bless America. I gotta move again. Now I gotta move my camera again. I pushed everything over there so you can see the. What do I know? Okay, I'm not going to change microphones. It's changing. Life is changing as we speak. Welcome back to the program. Attorney Charles, what's his name? Krugel. Again, learned a lot. Was it? I love Chicago attorneys for some reason. I don't know why that is. Because I'm one? I don't know. Well, let me decide. First, I have to decide what the heck I'm going to talk about. There's a new story out about, and it's there's a new story about the IRS, and there's lots of news. I don't know if I want to talk about the IRS news, even though I'm the IRS. I'm the tax man. Think you want to talk about it? But I don't know if that's enough. I don't know what to talk about. Do we talk about the war in Yugoslavia? It's not Yugoslavia. Ukraine. Wherever. There's a war someplace a long way away that we just gave them. We didn't give them, though, because Rand Paul just delayed it a little bit. You think that if you're going to send somebody $50 billion, maybe you should have a hearing about it. At least talk about it. I don't know if, well, I'm not going to talk about it. Let's do the show. Because then I'll talk about it on the show.
Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, on AM 560, The Answer. Tune in every week at 5 for an informative discussion about IRS obligations, credit card debt, mortgage default, collection activity, and how to resolve these legal issues using tax resolution, debt settlement, mortgage loan modification, foreclosure defense, and bankruptcy. Your host is Stephen Leahy, and the principal at Open Tax Resolutions and the law office of Stephen Leahy, PC. Stephen is the author of Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. IRS and debt issues are serious, but there is help. There are resolutions. So get ready and take notes during the IRS Radio Hour. And now, here's your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Hello, Chicago taxpayers. We are coming to you from Studio C here at AM 560, The Answer. This is the IRS Radio Hour.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Now remember, the IRS Radio Hour is sponsored by the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Opum Tax Advocates.
God bless you, Opum Tax Resolution.
Opum Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve their IRS problems forever. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now remember, this show, we are also talk about other things like loan modifications, bankruptcy, other things. But we also talk about news and what's in the news today. So we're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Let's do the segment. The News Roundup, review and comment on the news. Now here's the good news. I've been gone for the last week. We left right after last week on the show. My family and we went to Arkansas. Now, let me tell you something about Arkansas. This is my second time down there. We went vacationing down there. There's a cabin right on the lake. It was 90 degrees down there, just beautiful. And I never thought I'd go to Arkansas. I never picked. Let's go to Arkansas. Let's go there. But actually, it's a nice place. I'm really amazed at how, I guess the places I went, remote. Although I got to say, I was in the north side of New York, and that's pretty remote too. So, but Arkansas is very nice people, nice place. I was really surprised at again that there's so much to do there. Always think about it. Again, never thought I would go to Arkansas, but there I was in Arkansas. So I recommend it. It's a nice place. I was telling my kids we're on this lake. We're at this. It's a fairly big lake, and there's houses scattered around the lake. Like 20 years from now, this place is going to be. There's not going to be a lakefront that doesn't have a house on it. At least that's what I think is because when people learn about it, everybody's looking for lakefront property, and it's just really nice. But anyway, so I haven't been in the news very much, although I always have my computer, and at night I'm always looking at what's going on in the news. Try to ignore it a little bit while you're on vacation. You try not to get too much involved in the news. But I gotta say, this whole matter with what's going on in Pennsylvania, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on, it's like one thing after another. Like we don't even talk about it anymore. We're gonna send $50 billion. $50 billion. Think about that. I get it mixed up. Now we talk about $1 trillion so much, like you just think about $50 billion is nothing. $50 billion going to send overseas. And Rand Paul asked, well, maybe we should have somebody overlook how they spend the money. No, we can't have that. Well, why are you doing? Why are you delaying this? Why would we want to have a hearing about this money? Let's just send it to them. Let's hurry up and get it to them. They needed it yesterday. Like, wait a minute. Should we at least talk about what we're going to do with it? How they're going to spend it? How we should probably monitor how they spend the money? Aren't they the third most corrupt government in the world? And we're just going to hand them over all this money and say, here, do with it what you will. We'll come back and ask you how you're doing later. And if you need more, because remember now, this is only for 6 months. Because in 6 months' time, they're going to ask for another $50 billion. And we're going to hand that over, too. Here's a country doesn't have, we're $30 trillion in debt. So this $50 billion, we don't just go to some vault and just shovel the money at them. We don't have it. So we have to borrow the money. Isn't this where all this inflation comes from? Because we're printing money we don't have? Isn't that what causes? Haven't you always learned that that's what causes inflation? Too many dollars going after too few items, and that's what causes inflation. And when the government starts handing around $4 trillion over the last year, I got I have to laugh because you see Joe Biden now say, I've lowered the deficit more than anybody. It's like, wait a minute. The deficit was high because you guys spent $6 trillion we didn't have. And so now we're not going to spend $6 trillion. And now you can say, see, I cut it. We're not going to spend $6 trillion. You're still trying to get the Build Back Better plan, which is another $4 trillion. $4 trillion. They keep fighting. Well, we're going to raise interest rates so we can slow the economy down. And then Biden's up there saying, well, we need to speed the economy up. We need to expand the economy. It's like, you can't have it both ways. Yet that's exactly what we're doing. They want it both ways. Let's just take a break, as Rand Paul has said, and talk about what they're going to do with this money, and maybe put some oversight into it. We didn't have any oversight in Afghanistan. We spent, I don't know if you know this, $9 trillion in Afghanistan. For what? For nothing. We left. For nothing. Unbelievable. And so we left all of our equipment there. So is that what's going to happen here in Ukraine? We're just going to leave everything there. We're just going to give them $50 billion and just hope for the best. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And why is it that our Congress, we don't have bills anymore that are manageable? Has anybody read the bill, the $50 billion? I bet you if we went through that bill, there'd be unbelievable things in there that you'd be shocked to find out it's in there. It's like, wait a minute, this doesn't have anything to do with Ukraine. Well, how did this get in the bill? And nobody even knows it's there yet. And that's what they're afraid about with Rand Paul, because if we wait a week, we're going to find out what's in. We're going to find out some of the stuff, what was in it, right? Remember the bank or the Cash App stuff was in the American Rescue Plan. Nobody knew it was in there. It didn't come to light until 8 months later. And that's another thing that we're talking about. These are what they call informational returns from the IRS. And there's a big story about the IRS just throwing out like 20 million, 30 million of them, throwing them in the garbage. When you have a backup of documents, one way to solve the backup, throw them all in the garbage. Then you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's like, well, wait a minute. What's going to happen with all that information? What's gonna? Oh, don't worry. Nobody's gonna pay a fine or anything. So everything's fine. Everything's fine. What do we need that information for? Here's a great idea. Let's get the IRS. Let's have the IRS have more information. They can't handle the information we give them now. Let's double it. Let's do that. That seems like a good. And every story I read about this, well, they've been underfunded and understaffed for so many years. You can't really blame the IRS. And I say they weren't underfunded. I'm going to tell you this. What is the IRS budget this year? $14 billion. That's the IRS budget. $14 billion. And they tell you they can't answer the phone. They don't have enough people. They don't have enough money. Does that sound like enough money for you to answer the phone? Maybe they could, answer your question when you got a question. Or maybe they could look at the documents that you send in instead of just throwing them in the trash without even reviewing them. Seems like a good idea to me. And this is what happens when you're fighting with the IRS. And that's why we help people when they're fighting with the IRS. That's what Open Tax Advocates does, right? We help people who are at the crossroads with the IRS and they need help. And that's what we help people do. The Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve their IRS problems forever. Call us, 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. We're going to have the blog segment next. You won't want to miss it. Here on AM 560, The Answer. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about the information returns, but I think I'm going to do that in the Mr. Know-It-All segment because people don't know what that is. I'll just talk about bankruptcies. Let us move.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back to the program. I'm your host. I think I just told you, I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. This is the IRS Radio Hour here on AM 560. The Answer. We're here with Joliet Josh, our favorite technical producer today. No offense, Joliet. Now, Joliet helps me on another show, and that's the Trust Radio Network. The Trust Radio Network is a show that you can hear every Saturday at 7 o'clock here on AM 560, The Answer. It's where we interview important professionals, people you can trust when you're making important decisions. Generally, we've had attorneys. Last night on the show, we had attorney coach. He's not an attorney. He's an attorney coach. His name was Fretson, and Mr. Fretson helps attorneys in their marketing. Now, anybody who listens to the show knows that I'm very interested in marketing, how to get all of that stuff, digital marketing, all of it. I'm so interested in. And Attorney Fretson, I shouldn't call him Attorney Fretson. He's Attorney Coach Fretson. He shared so much great information with us. And, every one of those shows, I learned so much. I always looking for 2 or 3 pieces. Actually, you're happy to get one nugget, a golden nugget. And I got at least 3 from him on that show last night. If you missed the show, you can find it anywhere we stream. We stream all over Facebook. We're streaming on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You go to watchtalkradio.com. You find us there. Go to Chicago Tax Team. You can find us there. We're on LinkedIn. That's on there, too. So you can find us all over. We try to be ubiquitous in that you can find us everywhere. Now, next week, we have Attorney Charles Krugel. And Attorney Krugel helps businesses when it comes to employment and labor law. Now, we've had a couple labor employment attorneys that generally help employees. Attorney Krugel, his practices is really focused on helping businesses, and especially small to medium-sized businesses. So if you're running a small business, you have employees, there's lots of issues. Sometimes you haven't even thought about it yet. And one of the things that we talk about with Attorney Krugel is planning ahead and doing procedural. There's so many landmines out there that even before you get into trouble, you should probably talk to somebody, an attorney like him. If you have a handbook, for instance, a business a company handbook, you should probably have somebody look at it, because that's viewed as a contract, and so you should make sure that that everything you need is in there and that you cover yourself. And that's what Attorney Krugel does. So you can join us next Saturday here on AM 560, The Answer, on the Trust Radio Networks at 7 o'clock on Saturday. Join us, and you'll meet Attorney Charles Krugel.
It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
That's right. This is the blog segment. We're going to talk about what's going on in my office. But Attorney Leahy, you just said nothing was going on in your office. Well, even when I'm not there, things happen. Okay, so we've had some interesting cases recently, and really have to do with bankruptcy. And I want to talk about bankruptcy because I think it gets the short end sometimes that people. And I got to tell you, if you're looking at statistics, there is more consumer debt out there now than ever before, and with inflation and everything hitting, it's going to be hitting all of us very soon. We talk about foreclosure. Sometimes bankruptcy can be used as a remedy to foreclosure instead of losing your home. Sometimes, bankruptcy can be used if you owe the IRS money. One of the 6 things you can do if you owe the IRS money is file for protection under the bankruptcy laws. Now, bankruptcy and taxes, very complicated area of the law. And so but sometimes if you owe the IRS money, that will give you that will help you pass what they call the means test. And the means test is the level, if you make more than the average family your size, then there's a presumption that you shouldn't file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So let's talk a little bit about what bankruptcy is in Chapter 7, Chapter 13. If you think about the bankruptcy code as a book, and like every other book, it's divided into chapters. And that's why you hear so much about a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 11. Okay, Chapter 9, which is municipal bankruptcies, Chapter 12, which is farmers. So every chapter has a different remedy for a different situation. So the first one that comes available, and the one that most people think about when they think about bankruptcy, is a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And the title of Chapter 7 is liquidation. So what happens under a Chapter 7 liquidation is all your assets above a certain level of exemptions allowed by law are taken from you and sold. And then the proceeds of that sale are used to pay your creditors, all or a portion of what their claims are. Now, in a vast majority of cases, there aren't any assets above that level of exemptions allowed by law. And so most people who file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, they don't lose anything. And most of their debt is discharged. And I say most because, as I mentioned, recent taxes aren't dischargeable. Government fines aren't dischargeable. Child support payments aren't dischargeable. There's a couple of some other things too, but those are the major things that are not dischargeable. Most other things are your credit card debt, any personal loans, some taxes. And so let's talk about when taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy and why it can be used to overcome the presumption of abuse. So if there is a presumption of abuse if all your debt is consumer debt. But what if they're not consumer debts? Well, then the presumption doesn't apply. And so if I have a lot of, and I have had clients like this, right? They came to me, they said, well, I have to file a Chapter 13. Remember now, Chapter 13, the title of Chapter 13 is Adjustment of Debt for Individuals with Regular Income. And what happens under a Chapter 13 is you devise a plan to repay your creditors over a period of time, some or all of what you owe them. Now, that's why they came up with that with the means test, because they're trying to force more people into Chapter 13 to pay some of their debt. Because Chapter 7 lets you walk away from it and you don't have to worry about it. In Chapter 13, if you're over the mean, that's why they like them. That's why they did this. They changed the law because everybody used to be presumed to be eligible for a discharge of their debt, and now they say no. If you make this is what's wrong with a lot of our system, right? If you don't have anything, man, there's lots of programs for you. If you owe the IRS money and you can't pay them, tough, man, they got programs for you. If you've run up your credit card debt and you don't own anything, they got programs for you. You could file Chapter 7 all day long. But if you've put things away and you've saved money and you've bought and now you're the one they're coming after, okay? Because if you have assets, if you have retirement accounts, the IRS won't let you keep those retirement accounts and not pay them. Sometimes they will, but it's finagling. You really have to work on that and know the rules. And that's the same thing with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. If you know the rules, sometimes you can avoid some of the pitfalls. Again, like the presumption of abuse. If I owe the IRS a lot of money, and again, I'll tell you about a case that I had where the gentleman came to me, he thought he had to file a Chapter 13. And again, if you're over the mean and you file a Chapter 13, that means you're going to make payments for at least for the next 5 years. And so he's trying to avoid that. And I show him, well, look, you owe the IRS more than $100,000, don't you? Yes. But you don't have a mortgage, right? You rent. Yes. So most of his debt, the majority of his debt was IRS debt. Well, IRS debt is not consumer debt. And so the presumption of abuse didn't apply to him. And so we got to file a Chapter 7 and he got to walk away from his debt and he didn't have to make payments for 5 years. That was powerful, right? That was something and he had many attorneys tell him that he couldn't file a Chapter 7. But because they didn't understand taxes and bankruptcy. And that's something that I work with every day. And so if you owe the IRS money and you're thinking about bankruptcy, get someone who understands the difference, how that works. How does bankruptcy work and how does taxes work in bankruptcy? When is there an exception? When can I overcome the presumption of abuse? When can I discharge taxes in bankruptcy? This is paramount. right? What is the timing? You got to know these things. If you owe the IRS money and you're thinking about bankruptcy, here's what you should do. Pick up the phone and call Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates can answer your questions about this. Call them at 312-664-6649. You can visit them on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Get the answers to your questions, right? Don't just turn to somebody and say, well, I guess, and I got to tell you, all bankruptcy lawyers don't know about taxes. So find a bankruptcy attorney who understands taxes and bankruptcy. That's what you should do. We're going to take a break here on AM 560, The Answer. Okay, I got a little carried away. I didn't introduce Krugel, but I talked about him before. But I wanted to. I get a little carried away. It's true. I do. Okay, here's what we're gonna talk about now. We're gonna talk about. So I have a CLE class coming about 1099 Cs. Information returns. So let me turn this up. Okay, let's go.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Yeah, I am the tax man here on AM 560, The Answer. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer, and you, the listener.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right, I am Mr. Know-It-All today, at least for this segment I am. And what I want to talk about today is, you might have heard it on the news because now it's all over about these information returns that the IRS destroyed because there was too many of them and they didn't know what to do with them. So they just destroyed them. And so the question is going to become, well, attorney Leahy, what the heck is a informational return? And so that's what I want. That's the question I'm going to answer today. Okay, so information returns are the like your W-2. Okay, so when you get a W-2 from your job has to report all your income to the IRS. And then they're supposed to send it to you also. And this is what you use on your tax return to report your income. They tell you how much money you made. They tell you how much money you paid to the IRS. And that's the information that you use to create a tax return. But there's other types of information returns. And the really the heart of this, and there's some that what they call the 1098s. So if you're paying a mortgage to your home, every year the mortgage company will send you a 1098. This is an informational return because they're telling you and the IRS this is how much interest you paid over the year. Well, why would they tell you that? Because interest is deductible. So you can deduct that from your on your tax return. So they provide that information. And then but here's the big one. And the big one now is 1099s. And we've always heard about the 1099. They used to be the 1099 miscellaneous. And that caught everything. That kind of captured everything. But now they've really broken them down. We've talked about the 1099K, which is what the cash apps are going to be doing now. So now that if you get more than $600 on a cash app, you're going to receive a 1099K. Now, people say, well, that's not changing anything, and that's true because it's not making things taxable that were not taxable. All it's doing is sending that information to the IRS. And so now the IRS has that information and then will require that you have that information. And so if you get a 1099, and this is what's good, this is what happens with a lot of people with 1099s. Now, if you're working for Uber or something like that and you get what they call a 1099 NEC, non-employment compensation. And if you're working for them, you probably know, well, that's my income and I have to report it. And then you probably know that they don't take taxes out, and you have to pay taxes. And the extra tax is what they call self-employment tax. You got to pay that too. But what people don't realize is, again, this 1099K or the 1099C. A 1099C is what they call cancellation of debt. So you're having problems with your credit card company, and you fall behind, and maybe they want to sue you, and you owe them $10,000, and then you say, well, I let's work something out. I'll pay you something. Let's settle on it. And they say, okay, you send me a third of it, $3,333. And you say, wow, that's great. I'll send you the $3,338. What you don't realize is that $6,666 is taxable, right? So now you're going to get a 1099-C, and you're going to have to report that to the IRS. Now, there are ways to avoid paying taxes on it, but it's complicated. And again, it's the same thing with the 1099K. You may not have to pay taxes on that money, but it does complicate things because now the IRS has this information return, and that's what it's really for. These information returns are really to follow you, to track all your income to the IRS. So when you get money from, again, Uber or Instacart or something like that, they're telling the IRS, look, this is how much money he made from us. If you come up with the credit card and you do the 1099, they send you a 1099-C, right? They're sending it to the IRS. They're saying, look, they owed me $10,000, but they only paid me $3,333. So they still owe. So that's $6,666. That's going to be taxable, IRS. So they got to report that on their tax return. Now, as I mentioned, you might not have to pay taxes on that money, but you're going to have to explain why you don't have to pay taxes. And there's things, there's a complicated form. It's called the 982 form, which might let you avoid paying taxes. You have to, or you might be able to prove you don't have the money, right? Hey, IRS, I don't have the money to pay you. I'm technically insolvent. And if I could prove that, then I won't have to pay taxes on it. But really what this came out to my attention is when I was helping people in foreclosures or short sales and things like this. And then they found out that they might get a 1099-C for $100,000 or more. And then they had to pay taxes on it. Now, the good thing is that some years ago, the IRS started coming up with exceptions where you didn't have to pay this. But here's what I want you to know about information returns. You have to report them on your tax returns, and it gets complicated. You might not have to pay the tax, but you better get someone who understands how to account for them on your tax returns. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
Because, again, it does get complicated, and what most people do is they just ignore it. Don't ignore it, because that's just going to cause you more trouble, and then you get audited. Don't get audited from the IRS, but if you do, then call Open Tax Advocates at 312-664-6649. Visit them on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. We're going to take a little bit of a break. At the other side of this, we're going to talk to Joliet Josh about the Triple Zeros podcast and sports. So don't go anywhere. Join us on the other side on AM 560, The Answer. Whenever you're ready, Joliet.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
This segment of the IRS Radio Hour is brought to you by the Triple Zeros podcast. The game's not over until the clock strikes triple zeros. And now, here's your host, Stephen Leahy.
Welcome to the program. Thank you, Joliet Josh, for that introduction. And as you know, I always watch your show. I did watch your show. Did you put 2 out this last week?
I did. Remember, I told you I was supposed to put one out last weekend, and I had some technical difficulties, so I had to get both of them up there the other night. I'm so far behind, but I got them up there. They're both up.
You did, and I only finished half of the earlier one from the football. I did watch your basketball analysis, mostly basketball. You did some Bears stuff too.
Yeah, I'm trying. So I took something that you actually said and trying to apply it when you were talking about how much I'm covering. Trying to narrow that down a little bit.
No, I'm always amazed, and we talked about this before, but about how the detail that I think you're more involved in. I think you're more excited about how they form teams and what's going on with the teams. Not that you don't care about what goes on the court, because you do, because that all has to do with but so much background.
Well, the teams that I cover are all out of it, so.
Well, that's true, and I did notice that you talked about Golden State before the big loss.
I called it, didn't I?
Yeah, I watched that game, and I don't, my team's out too, so but I watched that game, and I was amazed. At halftime, at 70, they're down by 30 points at halftime.
They were down 50 something.
55 was
55 was the high.
Yeah.
At the end of 3, I think it was 52. Like it's insane.
It is insane.
That's insane.
And it's like one of those things. They just kept throwing stuff up and they kept going in.
Nothing worked. Nothing worked for Golden State. Everything was working for
everything
for
worked.
Memphis.
They just
without their best player.
Yeah, is that amazing? That's amazing. As Barkley comes in, they're just not focused. Well, they certainly weren't focused.
That was terrible.
That's very good. That's very good. So anyway, we talked about this before on the show about how much you're involved in what goes on in the trades and all that, and of course that's the draft. Which just went on. Mike and I mentioned this before. My kids are so involved in the draft, and they like the behind the scenes stuff too. So, and I don't even follow it even on my own teams anymore. I don't know why that is. I used to.
You're inundated with information. It's always coming at you from every different direction.
It really is. I want to mention before we run out of time about umpires. Man, they have taken used to be right. You want umpires to be there, but not part of the game. But they have become part of the game. Every time I turn around, there's another umpire issue. Not talking about Dan Bellino and his stare down. I don't know if you saw that.
No. Did you see the guy get called out for making a move towards second base?
Yes.
That was terrible.
It was terrible.
Sports today are over officiated in general.
Well, I agree with that, and because now the officials have become part of the game. You're supposed to be. It's like the chalk line, right? It's there. If it hits the chalk line, we know it's foul. If it goes over the net side, it's foul. If that is, but it doesn't become. It's not the issue. It's just too much. I don't. I'm trying to remember the umpire's name who. They were showing that one just terrible, like 8 of the 14 pitches he got wrong. Like I think Garcia is his name, but unbelievable. It's like and then they say, well, we don't need the electronic, and then something like that. I was like, well, then you wonder why they're going to go to electronic, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, thanks so much for discussing this with me. I appreciate it. Remember now, this Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problem. Go to ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Next week, join us here next week. Remember the Trust Radio Network on Saturday at 7 with Charles Krugel here on AM 560. The Answer. I just wanted to mention that to you, because that's a friend of mine, Dan Bellino, and he made headline news. But I know what he was doing. He was just protecting his guy, the umpire on the other, and so he just was because he was giving him a bad mouth, and they threw him out. I don't know if you saw that. You know how they check their hands now at the end? So as he's checking his hands, he's staring at the guy, and he doesn't even look down at his hands. Baumgartner, and then he says, so you can read his lips. He says bad words, and then says, what are you doing? And then said the F you to him, and he said, "You're out." Threw him out. First inning.
Magic words will get you tossed all the time.
First inning.
Oh.
But he was like waiting for it. He wanted him to say it so he could throw him out.
That's great.
So he could throw him out. And then there was that other pitcher that got thrown out after one pitch because they hit the first batter on the first pitch, and they threw him out. I said, "Well, that was purposeful." It's like, you didn't give us a warning or anything. I thought you had to give us a warning. Well, you were supposed to give you a warning, but we don't have to. So they threw him out. Again, too much officiating. There's too much officiating going on out there. Well, thanks so much. Do the final.
Thank you for being a friend. Watching our podcast till the very end.
Out.